Hello everybody. If you want to read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. Short story 664, The Electrician and the Singing Kettle. Intermediate. Barry was an electrician. He was a good electrician, but he was also a very, very careful man. He believed that everything in life needed a risk assessment form. Before he made a cup of tea, he would check if the kettle cord was frayed. Before he walked downstairs, he would test the handrail for stability. On Tuesday, Barry had a new customer. Her name was Brenda. Brenda lived in a small, very cluttered house. Her problem was simple. The lights in my kitchen keep flickering, Barry. It's very spooky. Barry nodded seriously. He opened his large toolbox. Inside, next to his screwdrivers and wire cutters, were his special safety equipment. A hard hat, a high-visibility vest, and a pair of protective goggles. Brenda looked at the hard hat. "For kitchen lights?" she asked. "Safety first, Brenda," said Barry, putting it on. "You can't be too careful." He walked into the kitchen. The lights were indeed flickering. Flicker, flicker, pop. Flicker, flicker, pop. Barry took out his voltage tester. He checked the light switch. It beeped quietly. "Perfectly safe," he muttered. He then decided he needed to check the plug socket. He got down on his hands and knees. He put on his goggles. He slowly, carefully crawled towards the wall. Under the kitchen table he went. Suddenly, bang! Barry hit his head on the underside of the table. "Ouch!" he cried. Thankfully, he was wearing his hard hat. He finally reached the socket. He tested it. It was also fine. Barry was confused. He stood up, scratching his head. Then he saw it. On the counter was a very old, very shiny kettle. It was plugged in. "Brenda," Barry said, "does the flickering happen at a specific time?" Brenda thought for a moment. "Well, now that you mention it, it always happens when I'm about to make a cup of tea." Barry pointed a dramatic finger at the kettle. "The suspect," he announced. He decided to perform a test. "Brenda, please plug in the kettle." Brenda plugged it in. Nothing happened. The lights were steady. "Now," said Barry, feeling like a detective, "turn the kettle on." Brenda pressed the switch on the kettle. Immediately, the kitchen lights went crazy. Flicker, flicker, pop! They dimmed almost to darkness. The kettle began to hum, but it was a strange, struggling hum. Barry marched over. "Aha! The kettle is faulty. It's using too much power. It's drawing all the electricity from the lights. It's a power-hungry monster." Just then, something even stranger happened. The struggling hum from the kettle changed. It became a tune, a weak, wobbly electrical version of the song Happy Birthday. Barry and Brenda stared at the kettle. The kettle sang, "Happy birthday to you." Barry took off his hard hat and goggles. He was in shock. "Your kettle, it's singing." "I know," said Brenda, clapping her hands. "It's never done that before. It must be because of your marvellous electrical presence, Barry." Barry did not think it was marvellous. He thought it was a serious electrical fault. He quickly unplugged the singing kettle. The kitchen lights immediately became bright and steady again. The room was silent. "The circuit is now stable," Barry said, breathing a sigh of relief. "The problem is solved. You need a new kettle." Brenda looked a little sad. "Oh, but I liked that kettle. It had character." Barry packed his toolbox very quickly. He gave Brenda his bill. Then he walked to his van, got in and drove away. He decided that some jobs were too strange, even for a very careful electrician. And from that day on, whenever he made a cup of tea at home, he looked at his own very quiet, very safe kettle and felt a sense of peace. Vocabulary notes. Flickering, verb. Meaning, to burn or shine with an unsteady light, to go on and off quickly and irregularly. Example, the lights in my kitchen keep flickering, Barry. It's very spooky. And the kitchen lights went crazy. Flicker, flicker, pop. Similar words. Fluttering, blinking, glitching, sputtering. Faulty, adjective, meaning not working correctly, having a defect or problem. Example, aha! The kettle is faulty. It's using too much power. Similar words. Broken, defective, malfunctioning, not working. Cluttered, adjective, meaning filled with a messy collection of things, untidy. Example, Brenda lived in a small, very cluttered house. Similar words. Untidy, messy, chaotic, jam-packed. Opposite. Tidy, neat, minimalist, organized. Stability, noun. Stable, adjective. Meaning, the quality of being steady, secure, and not likely to change or fail. Example, stability. Before he walked downstairs, he would test the handrail for stability. Example, stable. The circuit is now stable, Barry said, breathing a sigh of relief. Similar words. Steadiness, security, strength, reliability. Opposite. Instability, unsteadiness, weakness. Dramatic, adjective, meaning sudden, striking, and intended to create a strong effect. It can also relate to the theatre or drama. Example, Barry pointed a dramatic finger at the kettle. The suspect, he announced. Here it means he made a big, noticeable gesture, as if he were an actor in a play. Similar words. Theatrical, striking, noticeable, exaggerated. Story written by DeepSeek AI. Image created by onemin.ai. To read all the story's content in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. CC Music, Drifting at 432 Hz, Unicorn Heads.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. So today we're looking at a really unusual service call. It kind of perfectly shows how sometimes, focusing too much on the process can actually blind you to what's really going on. We're digging into the story of Barry, an electrician, and his dedication to safety. It's something else.
Oh, absolutely. When we say dedication, we mean, well, it borders on extreme, maybe. The sources describe him as someone who genuinely thinks everything needs a risk assessment form.
Like what sort of things?
Well, simple stuff. Checking a handrail for, quote, stability, making sure the kettle cord isn't frayed, just to make his own cup of tea in the morning,
Yeah.
It's thorough.
Okay, so that's Barry, our protagonist, and he gets this call from a customer, Brenda. Her house is described as very cluttered, small place, lots of stuff.
Right, and the problem sounds a bit odd. Flickering kitchen lights. She actually called them very spooky.
Spooky lights.
Yeah.
Okay, so Barry arrives, and how does Mr. Risk Assessment handle spooky lights?
Predictably, he treats it like a major incident. Forget simple domestic call. He's got the full gear out. Hard hat, high visibility vest, even protective goggles for kitchen lights.
Wow. Okay. Brenda must have been a bit confused.
You'd think so, yeah. But Barry, he's in the zone. He starts testing switch first.
And safe.
Perfectly safe, apparently. Then the socket. Checks the grounding. Also fine.
So far, so good. But the
Yeah.
lights are still flickering.
Exactly. So he needs to trace the wiring, which means getting under the kitchen table, fully geared up, remember?
Oh, I can see where this is going.
Yep. Crawls under there and bang, whacks his head right on a table leg.
Ouch.
The heart did its job, saving him from a nasty bump, apparently. The irony, though, all that gear for the electrics, and he gets taken out by furniture.
Okay, but problem still not solved.
Yeah.
What's next?
Well, this is where it gets interesting. His super detailed component by component check, it wasn't finding anything. So he steps back, thinks like a detective for a minute.
And he notices something.
He realizes the flickering isn't random. It always happens right when Brenda goes to make tea. Every single time.
The appliance connection.
Exactly. It needed that specific load, that stress test to show the fault. So Barry, apparently with a bit of drama, points this finger straight at the counter.
At Brenda.
No, at this very old, very shiny electric kettle. And he declares the suspect.
Okay. Hercule Poirot, the electrician. So the test.
Simple enough. Brenda goes to turn the kettle on, and instantly, it wasn't just flickering anymore. The lights went flicker, flicker, flick, pop, and then dimmed right down, almost to nothing.
Whoa. So the kettle was basically sucking all the power.
Pretty much. It was a massive fault in the kettle itself. The element was failing, drawing way, way too much current. Overcurrent, technically.
Hold on, though.
Yeah.
Barry checked the socket, the switch. He said they were safe.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't that show up? Does that mean checking parts isn't enough? You have to see the whole system working, right?
That's a great point, yeah. He checked the infrastructure, the wiring, the connections, and they were fine on their own. But the problem wasn't the road, it was the massive truck suddenly trying to drive down it.
The truck being the kettle.
Exactly. The faulty element's resistance dropped way down, so it started demanding huge amounts of current. That surge just pulled the voltage down for everything else on that same circuit, like the lights. That's called voltage drop. A big one in this case.
Okay, got it. So a dying appliance stealing all the juice. But wait, there was more, wasn't there? Something theatrical.
Yes. The twist. So as this poor old kettle is straining, drawing all this power, it starts making this humming noise. But then the hum changes. It gets slower, wobbly,
Mm-hmm.
and it starts making this weak electrical singing sound.
Yeah.
Like a really off-key buzzing version of Happy Birthday.
No, the kettle was singing Happy Birthday.
Apparently so. Barry, Mr. Risk Assessment himself, just stands there and says, "Your kettle, it's singing."
What did Brenda say? Was she horrified?
Not at all. She apparently just said, "Oh, I like that kettle. It had character."
Character. Okay. So Barry's faced with a singing, power-draining kettle. What's the fix?
Well, thankfully, the practical bit was easy. He just unplugged it.
And the lights came back on properly.
Mhm.
Instantly. Voltage stabilized, flickering gone, lights bright. The solution was simple. Brenda needed a new kettle. And Barry. Did he risk assess the kettle disposal?
No, it sounds like he decided some jobs are just too weird. He apparently made a very quick exit after that.
I can't blame him. So, okay, let's pull this together. What's the bigger picture here? The lesson for you listening.
I think it's about where failure often hides. It's not always the main system, the bit you check regularly. Sometimes it's the oldest, weakest link, that one component you haven't thought about in ages.
Like the kettle. Barry checked the wires, the switches all looked fine.
Yeah.
But the neglected kettle, that bit of technical debt maybe, that caused chaos.
Exactly. Systemic chaos from one faulty endpoint.
So the final thought then, if one old faulty kettle can secretly steal all the power and even burst into song, what everyday things are you relying on right now in your house, maybe your work?
Things you haven't checked the basic stability of recently.
Yeah. Maybe it's time to find your own power-hungry, character-filled appliances before they decide to give their own final performance.
Definitely something to think about.